The story opens in the year 1050 with the thunder of Viking ships cutting through the waves as they sail toward a quiet monastery in Normandy. Determined to plunder riches, the warriors ignore the desperate pleas of the monks and force their way into a hidden underground chamber, one they believe holds gold and sacred artifacts. But instead of treasure, they find something unexpected: a lone wolf cub, locked away behind a heavy wooden door. Disappointed, yet curious, they decide to take the cub with them back to Norway, hoping it might hold some value. However, their voyage home turns into a nightmare. As the ship nears the Norwegian coast, the men mysteriously begin to die, one by one. By the time the ship reaches land, none are left alive. The wolf, now grown and feral, vanishes into the wild, leaving no trace behind but fear. We then jump forward nearly 1,000 years to the present day. In the peaceful Norwegian town of Nybo, 17-year-old Thalie Berg is trying to adjust to her new life. She lives with her mother Liv, a newly transferred police officer, her stepfather Arthur, and her younger sister Jenny, who is deaf. But home isn't a sanctuary for Thalie. She's still grieving the loss of her father, who passed away months ago, and silently holds her mother responsible. Her relationship with Arthur is cold, but she remains fiercely protective of Jenny, the only one she truly connects with. One evening, while watching a horror film with Jenny, Thalie receives a message from her classmate Jonas, inviting her to a party in the woods near the bay, a gathering of local teens. She tells Arthur where she's going and bikes off into the night. At the party, Thalie chats with Jonas, and for a moment, she seems to enjoy herself. But things shift quickly. Elin, the mayor's daughter and Thalie's classmate, notices the chemistry between Thalie and Jonas and, out of jealousy, pulls Jonas aside for a private conversation. Feeling sidelined and unwanted, Thalie decides to leave early. As she's riding home, fate intervenes. In the stillness of the forest, Thalie spots Jonas and Elin talking near the bay. Before she can call out, a shadowy beast emerges from the trees and viciously attacks Elin. Jonas flees in terror, leaving Thalie alone with the horror. She rushes to help Elin, but the creature slashes her shoulder, wounding her deeply. Moments later, Elin is dragged away into the woods, never to return. Soon after, the forest is filled with flashing lights and sirens as the police and medics arrive. Jonas and Thalie are treated for their injuries, while Liv, now back in uniform, joins Police Chief Eilert in leading the investigation. A search is launched for Elin, but all they uncover is her bloodied phone and a massive torn claw lying in the brush. Later that night, Liv sits alone in front of her laptop, scanning articles and photos. What she finds is deeply unsettling. The claw doesn't belong to any known animal, at least not any normal one. It bears the terrifying signs of a wolf, but something much older and far more dangerous. The following morning, the aftermath of the horrifying incident begins to unfold. Everyone who attended the party, including Jonas and Thalie, the key eyewitnesses, are brought in for questioning by the local police. But neither of them can explain what they saw. Whatever attacked them wasn't human. But it wasn't something they could clearly identify either. Deep in the nearby forest, a grim discovery is made: Elin's mutilated body. It's sent in for autopsy, and the forensic team quickly determines that she was attacked by something massive. Parts of her body are missing, torn away as if by a wild predator. Though a wolf is suspected, the evidence doesn't quite add up. To get answers, the police bring in William, an expert from the veterinary college. Just before William's arrival, an unexpected visitor appears at the police station: a rugged, mysterious, one-armed man named Lars. He requests a meeting with the chief of police, but instead is directed to speak with Officer Liv. In a tense conversation, Lars shares a chilling theory. The creature behind the attacks is a werewolf, a terrifying fusion of man and beast. He claims he's been chasing this monster across Scandinavia for years. Liv is skeptical. To her, Lars is nothing more than a delusional drunk. But before leaving, Lars hands her a single silver bullet, warning her, it's the only thing that can kill the beast. That evening, Jonas meets Thalie at a quiet restaurant, hoping to apologize for putting her in danger. Thalie reassures him it wasn't his fault, but as she leaves the restaurant, she runs into Elin's grieving friends. Emotions run high, and they accuse her of being a coward who abandoned their friend. Shaken, Thalie bikes home in tears. Liv notices her distressed state and tries to console her, but Thalie isn't ready to talk. The next day, William arrives to examine Elin's body. His analysis, based on the bite marks and a massive claw found near the scene, leads him to conclude that the attacker was a very large wolf. Acting on this information, Liev and her colleague Eilert organize a hunting party and head into the woods. With trained hounds leading the way, the team pushes deep into the forest. There, they come across another horror, a headless corpse, later identified as an asylum seeker. Realizing the situation is far worse than they imagined, Liev radios for backup and leaves 2 hunters to guard the body while the rest press forward. Eventually, the group reaches an abandoned cave. Liev decides to investigate. Inside, she finds a narrow mine shaft with a ladder leading downward. As she descends cautiously into the darkness, a grisly sight awaits, the missing head from the earlier victim. Above ground, the 2 hunters left behind are suddenly ambushed. A terrifying growl echoes through the trees before the beast strikes. By the time the team hears the screams, it's already too late. The creature is upon them. In the chaos, 2 more hunters are killed, and Eilert is severely injured. Liev scrambles out of the mine just in time to come face to face with the creature, a massive wolf. It lunges, sending her crashing back down into the shaft. Wounded and desperate, she fumbles for her weapon and fires, but her bullets have no effect. Cornered and out of ammo, Liev remembers the silver bullet Lars had given her. With seconds to spare, she loads it into her gun and fires. The beast lets out a monstrous howl and drops dead. Later, Liev wakes up in a hospital bed, her wrist bandaged and in a cast. Eilert is alive, but in a coma. No other members of the hunting team survived. Meanwhile, Thala begins experiencing disturbing changes, vivid dreams, strange visions. At school, she starts hearing things no one else can, like the sound of Jonas quietly sketching with his pencil from across the room. The intensity overwhelms her, and she rushes to the restroom. But peace evades her there too. A faint crying comes from behind a stall. When Thala investigates, she's confronted by a vision of Elin, blaming her for her death. But it vanishes just as quickly, revealing it to be a hallucination. That night, Thala sleepwalks. Thankfully, her friend Jenny finds her and gently guides her back to bed. Back at the lab, William continues his analysis of the wolf's body. What he discovers is startling. None of Liv's regular bullets had penetrated the vital organs, not even the heart or lungs. The only wound that caused fatal damage? The silver bullet. Liv finally accepts the horrifying truth. This was no ordinary wolf. It was a werewolf. That night, Thala receives a message from Jonas asking to meet. She slips out quietly and makes her way to the scenic viewpoint where he waits, unaware that the darkest part of this nightmare may still be ahead. As Thala and Jonas sit together, a heavy silence lingers before she finally opens up. Her voice is low, shaken. She tells him she's never been this terrified in her entire life. The recent events have left her rattled to the core. Jonas, ever the comforting friend, reassures her. He gently reminds her that the danger has passed and encourages her to let go of the fear. As their conversation softens, emotions begin to shift. The bond between them grows deeper, and one thing leads to another. They share a heartfelt kiss under the moonlight. Just then, Jonas receives a call from his father. He steps away to answer, leaving Thala alone. She finds herself drawn to the full moon, its cold glow hypnotizing. Her breathing grows uneven. Something inside her stirs. In mere moments, her instincts overpower her. Her teeth sharpen, her body contorts, and she transforms into a wild, animalistic version of herself. When Jonas returns, he finds Thala collapsed on the ground. Confused and concerned, he rushes to her. But before she can say a word, she loses control again. And in a brutal turn of fate, she attacks and kills him. The next morning, Thala wakes up in her garage disoriented. Her face is smeared with blood. Panic rises in her throat. And then, she vomits. What comes out is horrifying. A piece of someone's finger. She's horrified to realize what she's done. She can't remember the night, but the truth is right there. Stricken with guilt, she heads to the viewpoint. There, she sees the police retrieving Jonas's disfigured body. Her worst fears are confirmed. Later, as the forensic analysis unfolds, William draws a chilling conclusion. The injuries Jonas sustained are disturbingly similar to those on Elin's body. But this time, the attacker seems to be a smaller creature. This pushes Liv to seek answers from Lars, who reveals something terrifying. Once a human turns into a werewolf, their humanity vanishes. The curse can only be broken by wiping out the entire bloodline. Meanwhile, Thaela comes to a harrowing realization. She's now a threat to everyone she loves. With a heavy heart, she decides to leave. But fate has other plans. On a bus heading away from town, the full moon breaks through the clouds. The transformation is instant. Chaos erupts. Passengers scream as Thael, now a fully formed werewolf, unleashes her fury. The bus crashes violently inside a tunnel. Soon after, Liv arrives on the scene. Survivors are fleeing the wreckage, traumatized. Liv draws her weapon and cautiously enters the bus. It's a bloodbath, and the creature is gone. As she surveys the scene, Liv spots torn clothes, Jenny's clothes, and her daughter's locket. Her heart sinks. Then William appears with disturbing news. They've tested the wolf's remains and found traces of human DNA. The nightmare is real. Liv's own daughter is now a werewolf. The story shifts to that very night. In her monstrous form, Thaele returns home. She approaches Jenny. For a moment, the beast and the sister lock eyes. Recognition flickers, but before anything can happen, Arthur, their stepfather, steps in. He attacks the creature with whatever he can, this time a lamp, and manages to grab Jenny and escape in the car. But Arthur's luck runs out. He's bleeding heavily from a bite and soon loses consciousness behind the wheel. The car crashes. Locals rush to help, but they too fall victim to the ravenous Thael. The werewolf tears through the crowd, leaving destruction in her wake. Jenny, devastated, takes a brave stand. She walks toward her sister, trying to reach the humanity that once existed. For a brief second, it works, but help arrives. Liv and William come onto the scene. William fires a tranquilizer dart at Thael. Liv grabs Jenny and they take shelter inside an empty store. There, Liv orders Jenny to hide behind the counter. Suddenly, Lars crashes into the store with his RV, trying to take Thael down. The impact is brutal. Lars, Liv, and William are all seriously hurt, but Thaela is still standing. She kills Lars mercilessly and lunges at Liv. Liv defends herself the only way she can, using her wrist cast as a makeshift shield. As the beast bites into it, she shouts for William to use another dart, but William is too injured. Then Jenny steps up. Without hesitation, she grabs the dart and plunges it into her sister's side. Thael finally collapses. In the aftermath, Thael is locked inside a veterinary clinic, unconscious and restrained. Liv visits her, overwhelmed with guilt. She quietly apologizes for failing her, but deep down, she knows what must be done. Tears in her eyes, she loads a silver bullet into her gun and gently places it against Thaele's neck, facing the most heartbreaking decision of her life.